Story 1. The real problem is a lack of trust and communication. However, stemming from that are many issues related to social media and adult content. It seems that many posts in various relationship forums arise because one person disapproves of the other person's online actions. Story 2. Social media is very influential. Everyone portrays their relationships as perfect online, leading people to feel inferior when real life doesn't match the online ideal. Additionally, many influencers on platforms like Instagram and TikTok spread harmful relationship advice. This environment can also encourage emotional and physical affairs. Story 3. Usually, there is a disconnect with at least one of the main things a relationship needs to thrive, such as communication, trust, honesty, or respect. Something often goes wrong with one of these. Story 4. The independent mentality in relationships is about interdependence and working together. It is not about I do me and you do you, or I want to do whatever I want whenever I want. You have to respect and take your partner's feelings into consideration. Stop living the single life in a relationship. You should do things together. Story 5. Social media and dating applications create a mentality that you can find another partner within a day. Relationships can be challenging sometimes. That is not a reason to leave and find someone else. Story 6. Excessive pornography use and time spent gaming for men leads to uncontrolled insecurities with women and increased reliance on social media. There is also an excessive focus on concepts like love languages, avoidance, and personality types, which can lead to categorizing partners rather than addressing individual problems. Story 7. My relationship significantly improved when my wife, then girlfriend, stopped using Facebook. For example, we went on a week-long all-inclusive vacation and had been home for a couple of weeks. She was scrolling through her Facebook feed and seeing other people posting their vacation pictures. She started to get really upset that we didn't already have the next vacation booked for her to look forward to. It frustrated me because I was the one who paid for everything, and it felt like it never happened. She didn't cherish the memories we made and instead became jealous of what other people had going on. Many of those people weren't even on vacation. They were simply changing their photos to ones taken a year prior. That didn't seem to matter. Instead, envy became the theft of joy. I asked her to stop and pointed out how a large part of her depression seemed to stem from her feelings of envy from endless scrolling. She actually took a 3-week break and became significantly happier. Once it dawned on her, she pretty much gave up social media, only using it immediately after we go on vacation or have other significant events where she can post photos. Story 8. Cell phones have become a major distraction. Everyone spends so much time on their devices that they can't enjoy anything. I'm tired of watching shows, movies, or going out to eat while my wife is on social media. Phone addiction is a real issue. Story 9. Modern relationships, which are expected to have egalitarian dynamics, do not align with older gender norm-based expectations found in traditional relationships. Most people do not fit neatly into one category. Instead, it is a blend of various influences. Moreover, the ability to make poor choices and still continue dating, thanks to online platforms, complicates matters. Individuals can engage in irresponsible behavior, negatively impacting others' experiences while still having the opportunity to return to the dating pool. The only time a person might face serious consequences is if they commit a crime. Shame used to be a useful corrective tool. People who seek different types of relationships, whether low commitment, traditional monogamy, or modern monogamy, must clearly communicate the type of relationship they seek in various contexts. This is not about politics, but about managing expectations in different interactions. Story 10. Poor communication and a lack of a collaborative mindset hinder teamwork. People often prioritize being right over working together effectively. Story 11. Reading all these cliché answers like lack of communication just makes me shake my head because it's simply cliché. That isn't the issue. I think it's a lack of contentment. It's that simple. Humans always seem to want more, no matter how much they already have in a partner. They can be with someone for years, and any little perceived inconvenience starts to feel like they are getting shortchanged, leading them to look for a better option. Life is about trade-offs. You are never going to get everything you want in a man or a woman every single time you need it, and certainly not on demand. Story 12. Unrealistic expectations and poor communication, along with the belief that you and your partner must be perfectly compatible in every aspect, can lead to disappointment. If you think that if they are not completely suitable, you should find someone who is, you will never succeed. Story 13. The illusion of infinite choice. We do not have infinite choice, but the dating environment convinces us that we do. When faced with infinite options, many people end up feeling overwhelmed and unable to make a decision because they fear settling. Story 14. Alcohol and drugs. Millennials were already consuming too much, and then COVID made it worse. I am not against cannabis in moderation, but many people seriously overuse it as well. Pornography overuse. Just like alcohol and cannabis, it's not harmful in moderation, but moderation is key. Social media and the constant use of devices. Antidepressants. Story 15. Social media, dating apps, and the internet in general make it easier for people to cheat or engage in minor forms of infidelity. I have a strong dislike for Snapchat as well. Platforms like OnlyFans and live pornography should never have been created. I am committed to this belief. Story 16. Honestly, I think people tend to rush into things more now than they used to. It really sucks because one of my best friends just got out of a relationship and jumped right into a date with one of his friends. I don't want to see him feel bad because he rushed things, although this is the first time he has started something with someone he knew beforehand, so I have more hope this time that things will work out. Story 17. We have adopted a consumer mentality toward relationships. Is your relationship in a rut? There is no need to work it out. Just replace your partner with a new one from a dating app. Additionally, constant comparisons with others on social media have distorted people's views on what truly matters in relationships. Story 18. Thinking that you must always feel that intense emotion you experience at the beginning of a relationship, and that when it subsides, you are no longer in love. Story 19. Honestly, trading in superficial instant gratification for what is real is important. It's essential to realize that external validation should not outweigh the commitment of a partner. Having options may seem appealing, but it is more meaningful to have someone who supports you unconditionally. Many people fail to understand that a relationship involves two individuals, not just one. I am just waiting for my generation to turn 30 to 40 and see how things will unfold, as I have a feeling we will be confronted with reality. Story 20. Perfect expectations. Type has become very important. I have been in 3 long-term relationships, and I don't think any of them are my type. But who cares? I had great times with all of them, and the same goes for the current one. Story 21. The simultaneous fear of being in committed relationships while seeking to gain the benefits of a relationship through multiple casual interactions creates a series of cyclical time bombs. These situations can explode when one party desires more than the other is willing to give. Story 22. I see smartphones and social media making many people feel lonely and shallow. Neither of us are on social media except for Reddit and YouTube. We don't use WhatsApp or anything else. It's fantastic to talk and spend time together. Story 23. Lack of trust, poor communication, and excessive focus on pornography are issues that need addressing. We can improve the situation. In truth, none of these factors have ever been important. Story 24. Social media, selfishness, and the notion that sex can be separated from intimacy and love in a healthy relationship. Story 25. If I had to boil it down to a phrase, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. To explain, the perpetuation of ideas that have never been beneficial for society as a whole, such as, if you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. The single or bachelor mentality, the arbitrary rules of dating, for example, wait a random amount of time before having sex. Otherwise, they'll think you're easy. And any gatekeeping or actions that make masculine or feminine traits into negatives. For example, real men would ask women out. Women must be subtle and can't be obvious about their desires. There are no rules except how you feel. Everything else is invented by your culture, your time, and the world around you to influence the type of person you choose to be with. You are responsible for your own choices. You can't show up with expectations and then get upset and resentful if the person you chose doesn't fit them. You can't expect the other person to be a mind reader. There is no successful selection process to get the person who is right for you. You've never had to go through it before. How could you know what's right for you and what isn't? How could you know whether you need someone to wait until marriage to even kiss them, or whether sleeping with someone on the first date will snag the person you will be with until your last breath? All we have are advisors and what worked for others, but they are not you, and they have come from a different time and culture. Even if you get advice from your peers, they aren't you either. They probably received advice from others who are not from their time or culture. They likely put in the work to find out what worked for them and what didn't, or maybe not. If that's the case, then why listen to them? I don't think a lot of guys out there start out as unpleasant individuals who should not be dating until they have done some introspective healing work. I believe it's their home life and social experiences that warp them into horrible people. Similarly, women don't start out as fearful individuals who must either put on a mask of fire and vengeance or hide behind a mask of rules and red tape to find someone they can trust with who they really are, just another human with feelings. Again, it's either their home life or social situations that create environments for these masks to come into existence. Their parents or other adult figures may perpetuate nonsense, giving the wrong impressions, advice, or rules for the situation their child is in. Then the child's peers might have received the wrong advice or rules and act on them, or they might want to imitate the wrong impressions they've seen because they think it's normal behavior, since they grew up with it. The media is also a significant influence, even in the 1990s or possibly even earlier, with children being watched by the TV babysitter instead of actual human beings or a supportive community. It's a deeply rooted problem that will not resolve itself until the entire plant is dead. These choices affect our species down to the DNA. If it affects the type of person we choose as a partner, then only that type will pass their DNA on. And by teaching them the flawed beliefs that they used to propagate their DNA, their children will replicate the same behaviors. If you need examples from the natural world, there are numerous unusual mating scenarios. Ducks, seahorses, hyenas, bedbugs, fig maturation, and so on. Things get exceptionally strange when superstition is involved, so I'll stop there for now. Story 26. Social media and technology connect us with more people than ever before. We are bombarded with videos, forums, and articles that suggest a better match is always just around the corner. There is a lack of morals, loyalty, and the ability to form deep connections. Communication is often absent, and boundaries are not respected, resulting in constant testing of limits in relationships. Story 27. Lack of self-awareness, lack of accountability, unwillingness to commit or address issues, and the belief that the grass is greener elsewhere. Story 28. Shorter attention spans, easy access to dopamine, poor air quality, contaminated water, unhealthy food, weaker family bonds, and a decline in moral standards among men and women. There is a growing lack of interest in or belief in God, accompanied by a you only live once mentality. Media influences our humor, and what makes us laugh today often involves dark themes. Substance abuse and addictions, including gaming and pornography, are prevalent. The obsession with youth and beauty continues to rise, with more people accessing beauty treatments. The perception that the grass is always greener elsewhere, combined with the ease of accessing casual sex through technology, complicates relationships, which require patience, effort, understanding, and maturity. Unfortunately, many individuals in their 30s are behaving like they are in their early 20s, avoiding responsibility and seeking lives filled with fun and no strings attached, believing this is true freedom. Additionally, the normalization of polyamory and open relationships reflects the understanding that humans are not inherently monogamous but can choose to be. The increasing cost of living, a declining desire to have children, and a rise in physical and mental health issues contribute to loneliness exacerbated by social media. Desires become skewed due to pornography, and notions of being good or pure are seen as uncool or overly burdensome. In this landscape, individuals often find villains and cheaters more captivating, and the belief that having multiple sexual partners is preferable to being committed to one person prevails. People value sex excessively in today's society. Story 29. People, particularly men, often do not step up to bear emotional intensity. Instead, they deflect it back toward their partners and then wonder why their partners are treating them poorly. I realize this is a bold statement, but it has saved me a great deal of grief. I believe it is a man's responsibility to take that pain and transform it into love. Both men and women have this responsibility, but women also have additional responsibilities that men do not. Additionally, I want to clarify that when I say men and women, I am referring to masculine and feminine energies, which are not confined to gender. A biological male can certainly embody feminine qualities in certain interpersonal contexts, but that does not change my message. I happen to be a biological male, and thus my writing reflects that perspective. Story 30. Social media has been my downfall, at least. It can be challenging when you compare yourself to others and receive a lot of unrealistic advice. You are partners, and they are not your hero or savior. Both must work hard. Story 31. The idea that you will be their exception. Sure, someone can change while being with you, but that is only if they want to change. People need to envision a world where their partner will not change, especially regarding values like religion, politics, or family plans, and ask themselves if they can tolerate that long-term. It is also important not to apply Hanlon's razor at times, especially in the early days of a relationship. Give the person you wish to be with time to learn how to make you happy and vice versa. Story 32. Not being upfront, realistic, or planning for the future is a concern. No one seems to discuss politics, religion, children, or any of the important decisions that may arise in life before they come together. People are often not open about their feelings. Every time I argue with my wife, it feels like an argument for our team. The purpose of our arguments is to seek the truth, which is ultimately what both of us desire. In that sense, an argument between us is not about us, but about our team and the truth. Story 33. Social media, including short videos on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, often provides misleading advice. Trust your instincts and do what you believe is right. Story 34. My immediate reaction is to mention women's entitlement, but honestly, it is the sheer abdication of personal responsibility, standards, and general laziness among men. Men were occupied with watching sports and playing video games instead of ensuring that wages kept pace with inflation, economic growth, and productivity. Now we are left feeling frustrated because we cannot afford to buy a house and support a family. A notable mention goes to TikTok, which seems designed to create divisions between people, ultimately weakening American culture. Story 35. It's mostly financial issues or because the world is so connected now that you always think you can do a bit better every time. The days of just dating people in your area are over. You see people from all over the world now. It's kind of like a streaming service for relationships. There is a lot for you to choose from, but too many options can be an issue. You're with someone for a couple of years and you see all these people on social media, whether you know them or not. You might see someone in a relationship with someone else and think, oh, if they can do that well, then surely I can do better than what I have right now. Story 36. Social media. I'm tired of seeing posts and reels that say, if he doesn't do these 10 things, does he truly love you? So many people think that because an account claims to understand relationships, they should follow those guides. Stop following them and live your relationship the way you and your partner choose. Story 37. Social media, especially the part encouraging everyone to persevere until something better comes along. Story 38. Much the same as it always was. A lack of communication and a willingness to work on issues together. That is not to say that if two people are incompatible, the relationship should not end. I believe we are now more willing to end relationships that are not working for us than we ever were in the past, and I see that as a positive development. Story 39. The constant need for perfection and the belief that you can simply trade up for someone better when an issue arises involves many factors. Story 40. Social media offers people excessive options, combined with a genetic makeup that may not be suited for lifelong monogamy. In the Star Trek Enterprise series, there is a species known as denobulans, where each husband has 3 wives and each wife has 3 husbands. They experience no jealousy or malice towards experimenting with other partners, even while married. This cultural mindset surrounding lifelong monogamy and infidelity can be detrimental to society, as it suppresses our natural genetic inclinations and causes anger when infidelity occurs and is discovered. I do not have the answer to what would create an ideal society, but I can state that monogamy is a cultural construct, and we are not inherently wired to stay with the same person for life. It may be an optimal way to structure a society, as it provides men with something to strive for, but when we are socially liberated and not morally shamed into monogamy, it leads to various complications. I believe a person should not enter a relationship with the expectation of monogamy and then fail to adhere to that expectation. Deception and secretive behavior are particularly damaging. If someone is seeking additional partners, it would be better to discuss that openly. Everyone has different expectations, and it is essential to communicate them clearly before entering a relationship. Honesty is crucial. Presenting oneself as something one is not can lead to significant issues. To me, blatant dishonesty is far worse than anything else, and I have little respect for those who lie. Story 41. There are too many options, sometimes creating the perception of more choices. Story 42. Social media and mobile phones have led people to focus more on their screens than on conversations with their spouses. Story 43. Communication skills, the perception of being more attractive or having more to offer than one truly does, the belief that someone better is always around the corner, and a lack of basic respect for oneself and others. Story 44. Men who act overly feminine. Women who enjoy the streets and struggle with commitment. Men who do not know how to court a woman and continue dating her even after winning her over. Women who fail to appreciate their partners or are financially motivated. Men who believe that a 50-50 approach is equitable for both genders. Women who do not recognize their own worth. Men who do not know how to take the lead. Women who do not know how to support. Additionally, men who lack commitment or do not value quality women. Story 45. Social media, with apologies to Reddit. When I was young, men had to meet the men in their girlfriend's life to be vetted and evaluated, as men are generally better at assessing male character traits from a distance. The same is true for women. Women are much better at spotting disingenuous or creepy women than men. Just look at how many sisters become protective at the scent of their brother's girlfriends. Nowadays, people share their insecurities with strangers online or assert their independence from the opposite sex by not seeking counsel from them. It often ends in poor and defeatist advice. Story 46. Dating apps keep people single by leading them to believe there is always something better out there. They can be addictive and create a cycle of habitual singleness. Story 47. The fact that situationships, hookups, social media, and polygamy exist shows a decline in respect for traditions. In my country, we still value old-fashioned principles, and men know how to treat a lady properly. However, in other parts of the world, particularly in the West, it seems there are no real men anymore. Story 48. The entire notion of "we don't need you," combined with constant claims of victimhood, creates a challenging situation. If men were to lose all sexual drive completely, women would quickly understand the advantages they previously had. Subsequently, there would be endless complaints about how difficult life is and how challenging their circumstances have become. Story 49. What ruins most social relationships nowadays is the lack of accountability and the illusion of immediate replaceability. Nobody puts in the effort anymore because they believe the next person is already waiting around the corner. Story 50. I sometimes wonder if it's the availability of a portrayed choice that influences our perceptions. Social media and apps like Tinder allow us to meet people we would probably never encounter otherwise, but they also establish unrealistic standards. Suddenly, the person in your town who would normally feel like an 8 to you becomes a 5 or even worse. I believe this portrayed choice is more or less an illusion. I wonder if, because of these apps and websites, men and women put less effort into their relationships and take fewer chances to truly understand each other and determine if they fit together. It feels like life has become so fast-paced that people are more afraid of investing their time in discovering deeper connections. The effort is diminished, and as a result, The strength and significance of relationships become weaker than if you had to approach someone and risk rejection. Story 51. Social media provides accessibility to many people at the click of a button. It makes individuals feel they may be missing out on better opportunities instead of focusing on their own growth. Story 52. Following beautiful women or handsome men creates temptation. Let's be honest. Story 53. I completely agree. You should be open and share what you have unconditionally, and I will determine what, if any, contribution I make to this relationship. Story 54. People are discussing their relationship problems with friends and strangers on the internet instead of addressing them with their partner. Story 55. Too many people in a relationship take without giving. Relationships are about give and take. One without the other will doom any relationship. Story 56. Social media, ideal relationships, and the unwillingness to truly understand the person you are with on a deep emotional level before committing are concerns. I believe that people need to complement each other and have similar goals to work on together. While sharing common interests, such as hobbies, is wonderful, it is not always sufficient. There is a distinction between liking and loving someone, and this complexity can be challenging for some to understand. Story 57. Being unhappy because of a fixation on specific outcomes often leads to the belief that if things do not go one's way, someone else is to blame for all problems. This can result in feelings of resentment. To foster positive relationships, it is important to give in order to receive. If you only take from others, you may come across as selfish. Story 58. Phones everywhere. In the bedroom, in the kitchen, in the living room, in the bathroom, in the car, in the supermarket, on vacation. You get the point. Story 59. Interference from family and certain friends can stem from various reasons. They may have their own agendas, feel jealous, or possess other motivations for not wanting the couple to be together. Story 60. The lack of maturity seems like it will almost hinder their ability to be straightforward, mature, and honest. Story 61. Lack of willingness to do the work. It is easy to find someone else instead of having difficult conversations and finding solutions while appreciating that person, even if you disagree with them. Story 62. Anti-human culture. Relationships are fundamental to a healthy human being, and culture right now is being pushed in an anti-human direction. Story 63. Statistically, social media plays a significant role in modern relationships. I came across a statistic indicating that approximately 40% of divorces involve some aspect of social media, which could be even higher. Story 64. Social media, particularly a lot of content, is designed to foster animosity between men and women. Men and women are complementary and are meant to cooperate, not hate each other. Story 65. Lack of socialization. I see many people who, at a foundational level, do not understand how others function. When they enter a relationship, it often turns into a disaster. Story 66. Comparison is the thief of joy. You see so many perfect relationships online and in the media. I can guarantee that every single one of them argues over the same trivial issues that you do. Story 67. Expecting an instant connection has been challenging. I have been talking to some people and going on a few dates, but how can you expect to be an excellent match from just one meeting? It is discouraging. Story 68. Grass is always greener mentally. There are unresolved issues from past relationships, entertaining multiple people, having backups, seeking validation on social media, cheating, and lacking boundaries. These are just a few observations I've made. Story 69. Selfishness and miscommunication are prevalent. We live in a generation focused on individualism, engaging in superficial conversations. We struggle to give people the attention needed for meaningful dialogue. Story 70. Without a doubt, unattractive individuals, unhappy individuals, selfish individuals, and those who need to be the center of attention are all too common. The world is suffering because the majority lack the capacity for critical thinking. People are driven by volatile emotions and instincts. Story 71. Nowadays, social media showcases the positive aspects of other people's relationships and presents attractive, heavily edited images of women and men. This can lead to feelings of comparison, inferiority, or even superiority. Story 72. Accountability. Do you think people haven't been cheating, lying, and deceiving each other since the dawn of time? Or just going for a walk to clear their minds? Now you can see where everyone is all the time, even if you just want a few minutes to yourself. Story 73. Feminism, dating applications, social media, hookup culture, pornography use and production, entitlement and selfishness. Story 74. The same reasons apply as always. You have to work on your relationship. If you don't, there can be no future. Story 75. As a man, I have experienced the expectation to read minds. As a man, you are simply expected to know. Story 76. We have one group acting like the owner class, blaming workers for being lazy and claiming that no one wants to work anymore, while offering only below poverty wages. On the other hand, the other group simply wants a living wage and does not seem interested in the situation. We need to educate both groups about reasonable expectations from one another and teach compromise. This situation is becoming similar to the dynamics between employers and employees, characterized by constant salary negotiations and hostility. Story 77. Missing dedication arises from the misconception that this constitutes suppression. It is not. It is how relationships function. Both partners must be committed and seek compromises. However, in our society, compromises are often perceived as a loss for each individual. Many people perceive themselves as too important. Most individuals struggle to maintain a relationship. Story 78. Being obsessed with the idea that there is someone better, even if your partner is great, and being overly infatuated with the initial stage of relationships leads to unhealthy patterns. At some point, you have to grow with someone if you truly want a relationship, not just look for the next best thing. Story 79. Honestly, I think depression and the general decline of people's mental health are affecting us as humans. Between the lowest wages, highest prices, the richest individuals, the poorest individuals, dysfunctional politics and propaganda, ongoing wars, the chaos of social media, and the climate crisis, we are living in a challenging time that takes a toll on many people. It is difficult to maintain a relationship that resembles a healthy one. Achieving normal relationship milestones or even just spending quality time and creating good memories together is challenging without the financial and mental stability that was more or less a given a couple of decades ago. Everything feels unstable, fast-paced, and overwhelmingly chaotic in our environment. For many, it is hard to function and behave like a decent human being amidst all this noise. Story 80. Dating apps and social media provide people with more options and the feeling that the grass is always greener on the other side. Story 81. Given that the 10-year divorce rate for lesbian couples is 72%, while the divorce rate among gay men is 16%, I would say that women are affecting most relationships these days. Story 82. People feeling entitled. My girlfriend doesn't expect much from me, and it makes me want to give her every last dollar I have. Story 83. The same issues that have always caused problems. Selfishness and anger. If you can only think of your own needs or cannot handle problems constructively, then your relationship will fail. Story 84. Social media can create the belief that someone better is always just around the corner. Focus on the person in front of you, see where things lead, and if it does not work out, move on and try again. Avoid jumping to the next possibility simply because it seems promising at an early stage. Story 85. Inability to communicate. They are trying to keep up with what is seen on Instagram and TikTok instead of living their lives. Story 86. Truthfully, TikTok trends involving pranks and tests can be damaging to many relationships. Story 87. These days, people aren't looking for loyalty. They are looking for attention. You can capture attention quickly, but you won't develop many loyal relationships when you are so busy chasing likes. Story 88. I think people don't want to confront their problems and just avoid them. Instead of overcoming a hurdle together, they prefer going somewhere where the grass is greener. Story 89. Lack of compromise and acceptance of the person's flaws in a relationship. while also refusing to take responsibility for your own flaws. Story 90. Am I a commodity? Will you trade me like wheat or pork belly futures? How much does an intimate encounter cost in this relationship? My relationship is not a transaction. If you are selling yourself to the highest bidder, it's exploitation. Story 91. Social media promotes the idea that you must constantly engage in games and follow endless advice about relationships. It creates the impression that others have it better. Simply communicate with one another and set realistic expectations. It is not difficult. Story 92. People give in too soon, giving up at the first sign of trouble. There are many dating apps, making it easy to think, I'll just find someone better. Story 93. Selfishness, a lack of effective conflict resolution skills, and a tendency to constantly look for something wrong in the relationship. Story 94. I don't know that it is any different nowadays than it ever was, but we are very connected due to the internet, so we see it play out in real time more often. People grow apart. I think a lot of it is that we just are not the same people at 20 as we are at 35. I don't believe that most relationships are ruined. I just think they run their course. Society is not exactly set up to keep relationships thriving either. Story 95. Unrealistic expectations arise when one person expects the other to be perfect and to win every guessing game they play. Story 96. Unrealistic expectations exist when everyone competes with others. Social media has led many to believe that celebrities are relatable and deserve luxury items or to be married to models. This reflects a mindset focused on abundance. Story 97. When things start to get tough, one person walks away. Sad, really? It's the hard times that make or break you. Story 98. I've seen the way some individuals talk about women online, and it stems from pornography distorting their perspectives and creating unrealistic expectations. Story 99. A relationship is about balance, symbolized by yin and yang. People come together to complement each other and build a life together. In today's modern world, both partners often seek to embody the qualities of yin, leading them to search for the yang in each other. To be more direct, one partner should focus on financial pursuits while the other takes care of family responsibilities. It does not matter which gender assumes each role. Either can fulfill them. However, if both partners attempt to take on the same role in the household, it becomes inefficient. It's akin to a technology startup having two chief executive officers but no chief technology officer. Story 100. Based on the marriage subject, it seems that a lack of communication is the most common cause of divorce or marital hardships. A close second is infidelity, which in some cases can also be attributed to insufficient communication. Story 101. The internet distracts you from what is right in front of you and stops you from focusing on keeping that relationship interesting and communicating effectively. Story 102. Communication, specifically never knowing what is going on in his mind, especially his emotions. Story 103. Women have too many options. It has reached a point where they have no valid reason to stay in a long-term relationship other than financial gain. Story 104. Sex or sexting during the week. Men are often focused on their desires rather than on getting to know you. Then they complain about not recognizing who they are dating, calling the person crazy, all because they failed to understand her, as they were too busy thinking about their own fantasies. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.